matua, whakapotahitia te ngā kauara, te hinangaro wau pono ngā katoa e tau nei. Me ingo ki rātou kia mātou ki taua kaupapa whānui e nai nei mō rātou. Me ingo ki rātou kia haere rungi te hualahi o au whakahū, me te uano rātou ki te pupuri ao ture. E te matua tawhai a whina tia rā rātou e moi kore nei. Me ingo hoki kia whai kaha ki te mahi i ngā mahi katoa e whakaroria tia e koe. E te matua aroha, awala mātou whakarere anō tia e koe. Engari, arahira mātou i rungi te huarahi o tō maramatanga. Me ngano hoki mātou kia hari i roto i tō aroha. E pono ko koe tō mātou kai arahi tēnei whakatupuranga ki tērā whakatupuranga tō mātou kai awhina mai tō mātou ariki. Āmene. A tēnei te mihi atu ki a koutou kua tai mai ki tō tātou nei hui huinga. Ko te kaupapa o tō tātou hui huinga e pāna ki Tātai Whakapapa. Me huri ki te taha Pākehā, ki whakamāramatia i ngā kupu wa tātou tāringa. So our session today will be on Tātai Whakapapa or Whakapapa research at Auckland Libraries. And now for this first part of the session, now that we've opened, I'd like to hand over to Raniera. So kei a koe te tuakana. Kia ora.
Tēnā no tātou katoa. Tuatahi māku, hautoko tō tātou reo whakamuimiti, te reo karakia, i ngau anō i tuku tēnei wāhanga kia tātou e Xavier. Kia taupai ngā manaakitanga ki rungi tō tātou huihinga tēnei rā. Tatu noa ki ngā tangata ko tai mai a ipurangi nei. No reira e mihi ana ki a koe. Me huri au ki te reo tuarua. Firstly, I wanted to acknowledge the blessings that have been placed on us today. Secondly, just to support the words of greeting or the words of welcome to us in this forum. I wanted to just begin with basically who I am and where I'm from. Those two questions are probably really ties up to what we're talking about, Tātai Whakapapa. So, ko whakarara te maunga, ko matauri te moana, ko ngā tikura te hapu, ko ngā pui te iwi, ko Raniera Kingi tōku ingoa. So that was my pepeha in a nutshell. I come from a famous bay, Matauri Bay. It is the pito o te ao, it is the centre of my universe and where I was brought up. I also mentioned the name of my marae. So, and my hapu was Ngā Tikura, also my mountain is Whakarara. So that's just a little about me. It also ties in really well with what we're talking about today, which is Tātai Whakapapa. So, kia ora. So we'll just carry on. Xavier, do you want to introduce who you are as well?
Kia ora Raniera. Kia ora no tātou. Ko rākau tapu te maunga, ko tapu wai te awa, ko hokianga te moana, ko ngā huia te whare, ko taku ingoa, ko Xavier Vincent Forsman. So that was my pepeha, and in terms of how it relates to Tātai Whakapapa, I'm quite fortunate in having being able to do this as part of our work, but also having a personal interest in Whakapapa research, having been doing some of this Whakapapa research for my own side. So as far as our service is concerned for Tātai Whakapapa, and I think I can speak for Raniera here, is that I think we're quite privileged to be able to help people with their Whakapapa research and to have access to the resources that we have in helping people. So that's a little bit about myself, and you'll hear a bit more from me later, but I'll hand back to Raniera. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Xavier. So we'll just head to our first slide, whānau. I'm a bit of a whakatauki person. A whakatauki is like a saying, or it's even a proverb or something that actually encourages us to look for some answers or hidden messages. So this one here is a well-known one actually. It's not to any particular iwi or hapu. And I'll just read it actually. Tātai whetu ki te rangi, mautonu, mautonu. Tātai whetu ki te tangata, ngaro noa, ngaro noa. A line of stars in the sky remains. A line of people on earth disappears. Now, I just want to try and set the tone for our kōrero, for our tātai whakapapa. And we may come back to it at the end of the session as well, just to get some sort of context. What does that mean and who is he referring to? So, kei te pai, I'll leave it there. Next one, please. Okay, because I get a lot of questions and people asking me, oh, what is tātai? What is whakapapa? So this is just a breakdown in terms of some of the words that we've used for our presentation. So tātai, as you can see, is a line or lineage. So those are lines or lineage. Now whakapapa and papa are two things. So when you put the two words together, they mean a laying of generations, one on top of the other. Whakapapa. So the word papa also means is a reference to papa tuanuku, in English, earth mother. So we've already started to look at some of the words that we do use. I'm just going to go down. So other terms used, as you'll notice, I'm from the north, and northern people have quite a lot of kupu that they use. And as you can see, with the first one is tātai. So when we're dealing with people and they're coming up and saying to us, oh, Raniera, I'm wanting to look at my tātai. A lot of people won't know that word. So that's why we've also introduced it in our title as well. So tātai, the other word is whakaheke. So whakaheke is also means the line of descent from one ancestor to another ancestor. And I threw that other one in there as well, because we like to be different in our poem up in the far north, in the Taitokoro region. I throw in a Whakapapa in there as well. And that is the same word as Whakapapa. But some of our northern kupu, northern word, we have also got a dialectual. So you may hear some of us, if you're one of these te reo experts, hear us throw in the Whakapapa just to test the water, see where this person's from. So in the Taranaki area, Wanganui, they have a mita anō, and they like dropping their H's. So up home we use a lot of H's. The Taranaki Wanganui people like to drop those H's, and you might get Whakapapa. So that's Whakapapa. Nothing to do with a waka, I was told, although I've had a few stories about how Whakapapa came there, but nothing to do with the waka. So the Whakapapa is a dialectual thing. So, ka pai. Yep. Ooh, ka pai. Some reasons for researching Whakapapa or tātai whakapapa. The big one here is your identity, I think, for us, especially us looking for our whakapapa. It's like bang, asking the two questions I asked before. Ko waikoe, who are you? No he koe, where are you from? So it helps us try and identify two, family connections, knowing what your whānau connections is, and that could be wide. We have our immediate whānau, but we also have our wider whānau connections as well. So that's about Whānau, that's about hapu, and that's about iwi. Oh, and waka. If you come on the waka, some say they didn't come on the waka, some they come on a tohora, paikia, and so be it. It talks about, the third one is land, so that's your relationship with the whenua. Some of us were glad to live by the sea, glad to live on the land that our people have talked to. The next one is about access to grants and scholarships. So as you know, we have a lot of iwi runanga, iwi trust boards that have putea or money. And Whakapapa is one of the main things of establishing some of the grants and scholarships that we do get. And the last one is to guide future generations. So those are our generations to come. Yep, kapai. Okay, this page is just covers all of our resources. So finally, this is just a glimpse of some of the resources that we hold within Auckland Libraries, and we'll be gradually covering some of the resources today. Yep. Okay, so our first resource is Māori births, deaths and marriages. As you can see from the slide here, our earlier ones are from 1911 right up to the mid-20th century. We also have marriages until 1952. We also have births and deaths. Now, between those periods of time, they were very separate. So Māori had their own births, deaths and marriage, and European had their own as well, what we call general marriages. Just some things here we've got, includes names, ages, locations, occupations, iwi, hapu. In some, they've called it degree. So you'll get terms like full-blooded Māori, half caste, so on and so on. And that was because of the Māori Affairs Amendment Act 1974. Cool, kapai. Okay, now there's two types of records you can get. You can either get, oh, sorry, it's back. So births, deaths and marriages online website. So there is a website that you can go to, and that's on behalf of the Department of Internal Affairs, which is an index which will give you, as a good example there we've got on the sheet here. So this is a death. This is the death index for Christopher Harris. The left side shows us that's the year and the number and how old he was when he died. So that's 79 years as well. So that gives us quite a lot. I just want to touch here is that there's two types of things you can get, and one is the printout, which is $25, and the other one, sorry, is the certificate. The printout is much easier to buy and it's much cheaper. Sorry. And the printouts can be emailed or rather than post if you're wanting it as well. So we've given an example down the bottom here as well, if you're using the website. So there's two there. You've got death certificate and we've got death printout, okay? And then you can order it online as well, okay? Yep, cool. The next one just shows us some examples of we've got here on the left-hand side, the marriage certificate as well, and what information you may find on it. As you can see, they've all been blanked out, and the reason for that is for privacy. So this particular one is a marriage between Xavier's ancestor, the Christopher Harris ancestor. As you can see, we've got, what have we got on here? We've got when and where they were married as such information, how old they were, what their occupation is quite important at the time, and also the birth and where they live. Like if you're a beginner research and you didn't know, say for instance, we've got Motukaraka. Where is Motukaraka? Where's Mangamuka? These two places are actually from up north. If you've been to Hokianga, Motukaraka is just north, I think, north of the Hokianga, and that's where this person was born. Also, Mangamuka, I think it's just in between the Northland there. And so, yeah, it gives quite a lot of information on the person. I've also got here who the minister was at the time. I think this is a Catholic minister. Yeah, Catholic minister. So, and then who the witnesses were. Okay, so you've got two witnesses there and where it was signed or where it took place. So this one, or where it was registered. So we've got Pūrākau. Now, according to my knowledge of the area, actually that was where the first Catholic Church was set up at the time of Pompaliad. I think also Pompaliad is also buried there in that church. So there you go, whānau. A lot of information that I didn't know, but I do know now. So yeah, let's go across. Okay, so okay, this is another one, Mangamuka Hokianga. There seems to be a theme going here as well. As I said, it has all the information on it, ages, where it was, and this one is actually taken at Rawene. So the registers book was kept at Rawene. Kapai. Okie dokie. Okay, so that was a marriage certificate that we looked at. This one carries more of the deaths. So these are people that have passed away. So this one was registered at Mangakino, which is really good as well. And I've also said it was a province district of Auckland, which is quite interesting how far Auckland was at that time in the district. So we have here, let me just, one thing to note here is that it also has the tribe. We get quite a number of questions of who, when looking for our ancestors or tupuna, what was their tribe? Yeah, iwi or hapu. This one's quite good. It also mentions Ngāti Uanuku. And it also has on here on the certificate, what was the cause of death? It's quite interesting because this looks like it's a coroner's one as well, which will give us another link to actually having a look at the coroner's reports, which we won't cover here. We also have where they were buried. Raitihi, I think that's not far from where the carrot is, if you know your location areas. And also the minister. This one was by the Ratana Church. Okay, so this is actually quite good. Because we know the Ratana o Moruhu, we can also try and have a look in the Ratana archive. So, you know, it's quite a lot of good information for us to absorb. I've got, so his name, he lived at Raitihi, he is Ngāti Uanuku, which is good. Keep on going down. And the last section, we've got, I think it's J. Lobdell. Anyway, he was living at Mangakino. Now, remember, this is the person who's giving the information. We must note that he's also the police constable at Mangakino, or the local police corps. So quite a lot of times information was given, but it wasn't given to people that were related to the deceased or related to the person. So in this case, it was a constable, and the constable is giving all this information. So I'd probably say at this stage, maybe take it as a grain of salt in terms of reading some of the information as well, and what information that has been given as well. Kapai, Xavier. Yep, so that's okay. This section is around spelling. Yeah, spelling. So when you're looking for people, what we've done here is given some examples. Te rangi, as you can see, is 2 words, te rangi. If you go along, there's te rangi, but with a macron in it as well. And then you've got te rangi is 1 word, and then the first word. So these are just some hints, I think. And when we're looking for people, we need to try both ways or alternative ways as well. Also try with macrons. As an example here, Hori has got a macron on it. The other one is Hori without a macron. And there's also the double words as well. Oh, double vowels, I should say, as well. Just some hints in terms of trying to look for names. It's surprising how at that period of time the names had changed. And so you would get Rapata is the Māori word we'd use. You might also get Robert. So it's vice versa. Hera is also Sarah. Mere is Mary. Hohepa is Joseph. So as I said, names are a big thing when we're looking for research, and these are just some hints of when you're looking for. Also look for other names as well. The accuracy of birth, death, and marriage certificate is right. Like I was saying before in the other example, it was a police constable that gave the word. It's really dependent on who gives the information at the time. Most times there is a connection to the person. In that one, it was a deceased. In the other case, it wasn't. So here we go. Okay, so in another of our resources we have is the Māori lectural roles. So what I've got there is, so I think the first one was 1909. Was the first Māori electoral rolls, and then the next one was 1919 electoral rolls. Hang on, no, so 1908 was the first one, and then 1919 was the next electoral roll. So until 1969, electoral tribal affiliations were listed. Okay. When we got to about 1996, then electorals composed of 4 areas: Northern, Southern, Western, and Eastern Māori rolls. Electoral rolls up to 1981 were digitized, and you can actually get those on ancestry.com if you have access to ancestry.com. So we've got a few here, starting with the top one. This is our Eastern Māori electoral roll. As I mentioned before, the person, the ancestor is Joseph Harris. So Joseph Ward Harris is the person we're looking for. It also has where he lived. He lived in Tokoroa. His tribe was Ngāpui, and his hapu was Ngai Tūpoto. Oh, and also his gender or sex was male. So if we didn't know any of it, this information would probably be really well good to get, because we are actually looking for a Joseph Ward, but we didn't know what his hapu was. So this one actually tells us he was from Ngai Tūpoto. We just go along. We're just going along. Okay, so this is the Northern Māori electoral. As I said before, there were 4 areas. So that was the Eastern Māori. This is the Northern Māori. So let me have a look. Have we got a Joseph Harris? Okay, yep. Okay, so number 29 Oh, actually, I better explain. So this is just a list of numbers. So there's no real significance. They just listed 1 to 42 as well. Hi. So Joseph Harris, it also has where he lived. So he's moved a lot. He's now moved to Point, England. He's also in Tāmaki, which is Auckland, Tāmaki. He's a labourer and he's male. And this NBI is abbreviated. So at the end of the lecture roll, I think there's an abbreviation list. Now, according to my knowledge, that NPI stands for Ngāpuri. Okay, so this is the right person. This is the person we're tracking. So he's moved. So there we go. Oh, and also it has occupation. Does it? No. So one difference here is occupation. Okay, we still have the iwi and hapu, but they've included the occupation in this one here, the Northern Māori. I'm just going to go down. Goodbye. Yeah, we're traveling a lot, Whānau. We've just gone to the east. We've gone to the north. I think we need to go to the south. It's like a waka journey. Okay, so I can't see him in this one, but I'm just going to give us an example. So let's get the top one. John, yeah, John Hedemia. Okay, I'm on track now. So John Hedemia is very close to Whenakupa, if we've got anybody who knew the old lady Whenakupa. Havelock also has the occupation, also has the description, but doesn't have the iwi and hapu. Okay, so those are some really good examples of how the electoral roll has changed. I think the important part here is that it does have information that's quite relevant. We may have not known that at the start. So there you go. So 1954, Eastern Māori, Northern Māori 63, and Southern Māori, which is 72. And as right with, you can access this on ancestry.com. Or I'm just going to put it there. If you're one like me, you can go through the fiche as well. We do have fiche for that period of time until you get to your hard copy. Bye. Okay, I think I will hand this over now to Xavier, who will take us through the Māori Land Court minute books. Kia ora, Xavier.
Kia ora, Raniera. Okay, so this is just carrying on with some of the resources that we have for Tātai Whakapapa. And one of our biggest resources is the Māori Land Court minute books. And so these, the land court, which was originally established as the native land court, had the purpose of trying to facilitate land transactions concerning Māori land. And so these minute books are a record of those court proceedings with regards to title. And really the intention of the court was to try and translate these customary titles into titles that were recognizable under European law. But what you'll find with these minute books is that they include information like whakapapa records, like tribal affiliations, succession, and partition orders. And particularly in cases such as succession, a person who took a succession claim to the Māori Land Court would often have to prove their whakapapa. And if they proved that to the court, then that would go on the court record and would be something that we can find from the minute books. In terms of the time period covered, there is an index covering the period from 1865 to 1910. And in terms of accessing this index, the easiest place is via the Auckland University Library website. You don't need to be a member of Auckland Libraries to access that. You can simply go on Auckland University Library website and access it from there. So what I'd like to do is just take you through how to navigate these records and access the resources. And so when we talk about minute books at Auckland Libraries, we have either the hard copy or the microfilm. It's important to note that neither of these collections that we have are complete. There tends to be more microfilm records than there are hard copies, but it's worth having a look on the catalogue to see if those records are available on hard copy or microfilm. I think it also depends on your own preference, whether you prefer hard copy or microfilm. I know for myself, if there's a hard copy available, I prefer to look through that rather than the microfilm. I just find it easier. But in most cases, we would have to look on the microfilm. So in this, I will show you how to check whether we've got a particular record available in our collection. And so to do that, we first go to the Māori Land Court Minutes Index on the Auckland University Library website. And this is what the front page looks like. You have this box underneath, search the index, and in that you can put in either the name of a land block or the name of an ancestor or tupuna. And so for this example, I'm going to put in the name Ngā Huia. And so I put that in a box, and this is what we're greeted with. We can see that it's looked up Ngā Huia and found 134 results. So on the main side, so 134 is quite a lot to work through. I want to narrow it down. And so on the right-hand side, where it says refine your results, you have a set of filters which you can use to narrow down the results. So for instance, the date, if you know the particular date or maybe the particular date range, you could narrow it down via that way. You can also narrow it down by district. So the district is where the court hearing took place. In my case, if I was looking up Ngā Huia, I would be concerned with Northland. And so I would want to narrow down the district to the Tai Tokero, which is the Māori for Northland. And you'll see it has numbers next to the district, and that tells you how many results there are per district. And so by narrowing it down to Tai Tokero, we'd go from 134 to 13, which I think is a lot more manageable in terms of results. So we do that. And let's say, for instance, we find a record that we want to look up. And so we open the record page, and this is the information that we're presented with. As far as being able to locate this record, there are three things we need to make a note of. It's these three: the minute book name, the page number, and the district. So this record will be in Northern Minute Book number 8 on page 343. And this particular record concerns the Tai Tokero district. So once we have that information, we can go to the Auckland Libraries website and have a look on our catalogue. And to do that, we first put in Māori Land Court minute books. And this is what comes up. It lists the microfilm results in the first instance. So thinking back to the information on the record, we want to look at the Tai Tokero district, which is at the bottom here. So we open that up, and this is what we're presented with. Now further down the page, there'll be a list of film reels. And these list of reels correspond to the minute book volumes that are held on each reel. So we go down the page, but before that we can see in library holdings, which libraries hold the collections. So this set of microfilms is held at Research Central, South and West research centres. So once we know that, we go down the page and we have these list of reels. As I said, they have various minute book volumes on each reel. And if you remember back, we wanted Northern Minute Book number 8. And so we find that that's reel number 71. Now you'll see that the reels have more than one volume of minute book, which is another advantage of the microfilms, is that they take up less space than the hard copies. Anyway, reel number 71 is the one we want. So this is just an example of information that you can expect to see in a minute book. There's a bit more context than what's shown here, but you can see straight away some whakapapa, genealogical lines drawn. And I can see my ancestor Ngā Huia in the middle of the page, and her son Nui Hare, who was one of the sons of Ngā Huia and Christopher Harris. And this happens to be my line here. So you've got Ngā Huia through to Ru, and then going all the way up to Miruiti on the top here. And that's where the connection with Ngai Tūpoto takes place. So as I said earlier, I personally like to look through the hard copies of the minute books, because you'll find that there's more context to what you'll see on a particular page if you look at the pages on either side, or even if you're just flicking through. But that's roughly how you can locate and track down records from the Māori Land Court minute books. Another good source of information is the New Zealand Gazette, which is the official government publication. And in particular, the Gazette has records of whāngai, or customary adoption. And these practices of whāngai were gazetted until around 1956, when the Adoption Act 1955 no longer recognized it as having legal status. That's not to say that whāngai stopped happening then. They did still happen. The practice continued, but it just wasn't gazetted after that point. So in terms of a gazette notice for a whāngai, this shows you what it would look like roughly. You have the registrar's notice and then the schedule. And so I've cut out the names that have come under this schedule, but you'll find the gazette's a public record anyway. But in terms of what to expect, so you'll have the date of the order, the name of the adopted child, and it's worth noting that in some notices it will have the name at birth, and if the name was changed upon the whāngai taking place, it will have the adoptive name as well. You have the sex, the date of birth, and the names of the adopting parents. So that's the gazettes. Another important resource is Whānau Whakapapa books, and we are quite thankful at Auckland Libraries to hold some of these Whakapapa books, and they can usually be found under the call number 929.2. Because of how valuable these books are, they are reference only, but you will find in these books such things as genealogical tables, births, deaths and marriages, dates, photos, iwi history, and whatnot. So that's Whakapapa books, and I have an example here. So this is from Greening Family History descending from Chief Kahungunu of Mahia, and some of these Whakapapa books are quite nicely bound, as this one is. And on the inside of this book, you have illustrations And you also have genealogical tables, which can be seen here. It's worth inquiring with marae or iwi runanga about whānau whakapapa books. Generally, they don't have very large print runs because of the expense involved in producing such books. But it can be worth inquiring with marae if they have any copies. Tribal books are great if you're looking up some of the wider tribal history, and all of our research centres Māori collections have a selection of tribal books. So you have such things as Pay Jones's and Bruce Bigg's Tainui, and also Mitchell's Takitimu. And all these books have history going back to the arrival of these people. And so that's good if you're looking at the larger scale history, as it were. Manuscripts. So as part of Auckland Libraries special collections, we have some manuscripts that can be useful for Tātai Whakapapa. On the left-hand side is an example of Gray's Māori manuscripts. And this particular example shows the tree of the Ngāpuhi tribe, starting with Puhi Moanariki, and then going down to Te Hau and Rahiri. And Rahiri is one of the paramount ancestors, if you like, of the Ngāpuhi. And so that's from Gray's manuscripts. On the other side, we have Gudgeon's genealogies. So these were collected by Walter Gudgeon, who was a judge of the Native Land Court. And these genealogical tables cover the east coast of the North Island. And so you have such things as the genealogy of Tu Whakairi Ora, which is what is shown here. So manuscripts can be another resource for your research. We also have a collection of online databases. Our own one, Kura, which houses Auckland Libraries Heritage Collections, and includes a database called iwidex, which has things like various published and unpublished material on Māori, tribal books and whatnot that we just covered, but all in one place. And so that's all accessible through Kura, which can be looked up via our website. Some of the other databases that are available include ancestry.com. So that's useful for things like the electoral rolls that Raniera showed us. Also things like MyHeritage and Family Search. The beauty of these is that you'd normally have to pay a subscription for such services, but by coming into the library and having a library membership, you can access them for free. Knowledge Basket, so New Zealand Index has things like newspaper indices, so useful for looking up things in newspapers, and you do find such things as to do with whakapapa in these indices. One really useful website is maorimaps.com, and this website was launched in 2011. It's administered by the Te Pōtiki National Trust, which was founded by Dr. Paul Tapsell and Ririata Mahika. And the main purpose of this website is to connect people with their ancestral or tribal marae. So this website doesn't include urban marae, but each marae that features on this website contains its own page. And this page has photos of the marae. It has key information like the waka, iwi, hapu, and the names of the urupa or cemeteries and so forth, as well as contact details for each marae. And you will find, if you go on it, that you can search in that white box there, not only just by the name of the marae, but also by hapu, iwi, runanga, or even by the Māori Battalion Company. So you could put in a company in the search and it would list all the marae that have tribal affiliations with the A company. So all the Ngāpuhi and the Northern Marae would come under that search. So Māori maps, and just an example of what it looks like. So as I said, you've got a map showing where the marae is and some photos. And then on the right-hand side, the information, so the address, contact details, and the information. And so you have things like the iwi runanga battalion and whatnot. And then marae nearby, it's just a fun way of showing what other marae are near the one that you have looked up. Some other online resources that don't necessarily come under Auckland Libraries. Archway, which is Archives New Zealand online database, has records such as probates for wills and also military records. It's worth looking that up. Not very many of those resources are digitized, so in order to access them, you would have to contact the Archives New Zealand office at which that material is held. Papers Past, they recently had an update to include more Māori content. So you have Māori books and newspapers, also general newspapers which have things like obituaries and whatnot. As far as Māori content is concerned, Papers Past has the collection of old Māori newspapers which are fully searchable, so you can look stuff up according to keywords. One nice thing about the old Māori newspapers is that they have excerpts of Whakapapa, waiata and whatnot, which were sometimes published in those newspapers. The periodical Te Ao Hou, which means New World, is also available on Papers Past. And this was a publication that was quite popular in the middle of last century. And it documents particularly how around the time of urbanization, when that was quite prominent, and how Māori were adjusting to the urban life. Ngā Taonga Sound and Vision, which is the Sound and Vision Archives, has recordings of Māori radio programs, for instance. So things like the Māori program, which were headed by such people as Bill Parker, Selwyn Muru, and Ted Nepia. That's always nice to have a look through and have a listen. And also Māori Land Online. And so Māori Land Online is run by the Māori Land Court. And this would be the place to go to if you have inquiries concerning present day Māori land. So whereas our resources cover more the historic Māori land and the minutes, for current day cases, Māori Land Online is the place to go to. We also produce a couple of our own whakapapa resources. So the booklet on the left, Whakapapa for Beginners, this was originally made by Raywin Paiwai, who used to work at Auckland Libraries, and we've been giving it minor updates since. And this lists pretty much all of the resources that we've covered today, as well as additional resources and tips to help you get going with your whakapapa research. On the right-hand side, the Kotoku Whānau Whakapapa Research Guide is a booklet that you can fill in, and it has spaces to record notes and things, and also a whakapapa, a family tree diagram that you can fill in to document your whakapapa research journey. So both of these resources, with the research guide, is available at any of the research centres, and we can also make these resources available online if you're interested. So this is Auckland Libraries Māori research team, all 2 of us, and the email address maoriresearch@aucklandcouncil.govt.nz is how you can contact us for any whakapapa queries. Likewise, for all other research queries and whakapapa as well, there are the 4 research centres. At Takapuna is the north, Waitakere Central Research West, Research Central at the Central City Library, and at south at Manukau Library. And you can find either Raniera or myself. We are sometimes at Manukau Library at Research South or Research North at Takapuna, respectively. And since we opened with a whakatauki or proverb, it's appropriate to end on a similar note. And these particular lines are usually given during a mihi or Māori oratory. And they go like this: Piti hono tātai hono, rātou te hunga mate kia rātou. Piti hono tātai hono, tātou te hunga ora kia tātou. The lines of the dead are joined, the lines of the living are joined. And so that's to acknowledge that there are both various lines that all make up our own whakapapa.